My name is Andrew Davis, and you are watching Conversations in Pop Culture. And yes, I am scandalous like an Ashley. And before I introduce my guest, I do want to remind everybody that this episode is brought to you by my good friend Preston Polster, who right now has a Kickstarter going on. Pocket Jack Comics is his company, and he's offering a sexy limited edition swimsuit cover on Kickstarter. I think it's his first. Links in the description down below. So go check it out. It's super limited. I think there's only 100 of them out there. So they're probably going to sell or get pretty close to selling out. It's a good book. If you like Zenescope, you'll probably like his stuff. So there you go. And enough about that, though, because I have with me comic creator and publisher from Zenescope, Dave Franchini. So welcome back to the show.
Hi. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no. I'm excited. You're the first one back after my semi 8-week vacation. I did do 2 sort of in the middle of this, but I did take a big break. I much needed it. But obviously, I love Zenescope. I had Ralph and Joe on towards the end of season 4, and we are on season 5. And so a lot of stuff's going on with Zenescope, and I figured we would start with Belle, because that's your baby.
My baby. Now, what's up? What do you want to know about Belle?
I mean, a lot's happened to her this year. Where I feel we are past the introduction level of Belle. And now we're learning a lot more about her family, what her family's done, what her family hasn't done, what her family should have done, and how this is all affecting her. And it's very interesting because I haven't read everything. I'm maybe like 2 or 3 issues behind. But what I get the sense is that there's a lot of, I guess, unwanted history and legacy history with her family. And we're really getting this development of her character.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of like a weight. It's more like a weight for her. Like, I mean, that was always kind of what I wanted to do. Like, we introduced her, and we kind of spent like a few years kind of developing her world, but also developing her, like, her villains and her friends, and just like the environment she exists in. Because she's still in the Grimm universe, but she, like, what we've been trying to do for the last couple of years is like give each character their own pocket of the universe, and kind of be able to sustain themselves in their own universe. And then when we cross over, it feels a little more natural, but also gives you the ability to have different stories and have more of like a cooler impact when, like, you see Robin and Belle come together, or Robin and Van Helsing, or Sky and Red Agent, things like that. But with Belle, yeah, I mean, it was just kind of cool, like, and like to kind of build a natural progression of like tearing away the layers of her story. Like, I've always, like, I don't know how far you've gotten, but like we started talking about some of her ancestors and how long she, like, her bloodlines. Like, the pitch has always been like that she's part of a bloodline passed down from mother to daughter, and now she's taken over. But now you start realizing, like, there is other people that had the, like, basically had the same curse, same gift, and now it's just kind of expanding on that. Like, if I had it my way, like, I'd tell her stories forever, because there's so many stories to tell. And not even that, I'd want to tell about all her ancestors and all the people from, like, I like history. So you, like, see stuff like in Roman, or not Roman times, like this, like the 1500s, 1600s, maybe even Roman times, things like that, like kind of across the board. Like, I love that stuff. So hopefully we get some time.
I mean, I'm like an issue or 2 behind, and it's just finding time to read anything and everything. Unfortunately, I've developed a nasty habit called watching football. You know, it's hey,
that's fantasy too.
we don't have to talk about it. I'm a New York Giants fan, and I was just as shocked as everybody else was.
I don't want to talk about that. I don't even want to watch them the rest of the season, but I'm going to do it to myself anyway. I mean, we have we may have more than one game left, but I don't know. We'll see.
There are a lot of problems in the team, and they need a Taylor Swift on their team. Anyway, getting back to Belle. See, what I actually like about what's going on and what I've read is that we're actually diving into what I view as sort of a level 2 of her character and further development. And it's kind of nice because we've had this with Van Helsing. We've had this with Robin Hood, and it's kind of nice to get into, I guess, the ugly side of these characters. Because unfortunately, the thing about Grimm fairy tales just in general and not Zenescope, but we see Robin, we see Van Helsing, we see all these characters, we see Dorothy. We never see their ugly side or their evil side or their messed up family side. And now we're getting to see this with Belle. And it's kind of nice to see everybody knows, Beauty and the Beast, which is where I think Belle comes from in certain regards, at least the original fairy tale. And it's nice that in that she's sweet, nice, and all pristine, and she's a great Disney princess. But now we're starting to see a very dark interpretation and a messed up family. And it's kind of cool to see that because it changes, I feel, the narrative where I can't watch Beauty and the Beast the same now.
Oh, awesome. Good. Thank you.
Oh, you ruined it for me. It's like my favorite movie. How dare you?
I love Beauty and the Beast too. I mean, but I don't know, like it's kind of taken on its own like life, which is cool. Like, I mean, that's that's the fun part about writing and just creating these things. But like, no, I mean, and also exploring, like what you're saying is like the level 2 and like going into like how twisted her family really is, because like not everybody's life and everybody's family and most people's families aren't cut and dry, perfect down the middle. Now it's like I feel like a lot of things that you can discover who a person is by like how they were raised, the people that they include, like how they were raised, and then as a kid to like how they're an adult and who they keep around them, and how they portray themselves and how they react to the situations at hand. Like I think that's just a cool. I think it's just a cool story to tell and dive into, and it keeps you interested because it's relatable. But then at the same time, it's not, because it's dealing with monsters. Like it's relatable. Like you can have self-doubt, you can have issues with like betrayal, or issues with like her bad family members is amplified to a whole nother level because we're in comic books. But it's the equivalent of having like a deadbeat dad, or having someone that's like, or an abusive mother, or anything like that. Like her story just goes a little bit crazier because it goes from mental abuse to monsters to ancient societies that want to basically destroy her, and also curses and Greek gods, which a lot of this, I don't know, I don't know. It sounds crazy when you kind of say it out loud, but it's like it's all trying to wrap it and push it into one thing is kind of fun.
And then also the other thing that's getting really interesting about Belle is, and I kind of know because I spoiled myself a little bit, but I don't know if I'm up to it exactly yet. Is that there's other characters like Sleeping Beauty's now coming in. I know Cinderella came in, and there's that going on. And I know Cinderella is a little bit of a sociopathic, psychopathic character, and is not a good character in the Grimm universe. And I'm not too sure Sleeping Beauty is either. Sleeping Beauty might be more purple in reality. But the whole point is that these are characters that had their own books and were in other books, and now they're coming into Belle's book. And it's kind of like they're sort of her ally, but they're also the enemy, and they also might have common enemies. And the saying is, the enemy of the enemy is my friend. And so there's a lot of stuff going on with that as well, which also creates a very interesting world going on, where now you kind of have Belle and Cinderella teaming up a little bit, but I don't think they're on the same team in the overall.
I mean, that's the thing too. It's like that one just came out. I've had it for a little bit. It's sitting right here. Yeah, it's right here. but what's it called? Yeah, I mean, like that's the fun thing about like having the Grimm universe and having the shared universe. And again, like, so we have like Belle has her own part of that universe, and she's kind of been in her own bubble with Mel and Hershey and her mom and Beast and all the different monsters. But like the fun part is bringing in these other characters that she wouldn't know related to her, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. I mean, the crossover is really fun, and trying to make it as natural as possible is pretty fun too. Like even Rory Norris is Sleeping Beauty, and she's actually from Philadelphia too. So like they're not friends. They've never ran in the same circles, whatever it is. It's a big city. So like bringing them together and tying some of these more twisted things in our universe together is kind of like bringing them, like, it's cool to kind of see them interact with each other, like, and also giving Belle different places to go. Like Rory is Sleeping Beauty. She works in the Dreamverse, where Belle basically is a human being and a living being. So she has dreams naturally. And reading it without spoiling some of the other stories, like there's reasons why they kind of connect and why they cross over. Cinderella, another thing, it kind of spins out of a little bit what happens at the end of the Belle annual Apex Predator. Belle's in a different part of her life at this point, like not like skipping years ahead, but she's in a different part of her life mentally and focus wise, and what she's doing kind of brings her into a pathway of Cinderella, who Cinderella is basically, she's not really a hero, but she's not necessarily a villain. She's more misunderstood. Like she's done villainous things in the past, but she's not going out of her way to be like, I'm going to take over the world villain or anything like that. She just does bad things. So I get, yeah, I mean, she's a villain. It's all perspective. And like and she's also, one of her best friends is a giant moth named Dolores. So to Belle, that's a monster. To Cindy, that's a best friend. So it's like now when these characters have to cross paths and clash, it's like, well, does she kill the monster because it's a monster, or does she understand that maybe it's more than just a monster? Things like that. Like, but then also it's a sin. Once you enter Cindy into the ring, it becomes a whole nother story. Like her psychosis kind of spreads throughout and kind of infects the other people, not like in a disease, but more in a like, well, this person's saying some ludicrous stuff, and it kind of like puts you in a different mindset because you got to fit. It's like anybody, like you meet somebody out on, like you're on a bus or you're out walking and they're talking to you about normal things, and then all of a sudden they start saying like stuff out of left field about like aliens living in like a porta potty, and you're just like, well, what? and it's just kind of playing with that, like you kind of just feeding off of like.
So let's actually dive into this, because I think this actually leads to a much bigger thing that you were going back to, which is obviously introducing other parts of the entire Grimm universe. Because what's going on in New York with Robin Hood is also happening relatively around the same time. What's going on with Belle in Philadelphia, and then other things are going on. Obviously, there's stuff going on in Oz that's in a different world. That doesn't mean it can't affect what's in Earth. I mean, at some point, it
will be. We have a story coming up. I think we're launching it in March. It's coming out in March, but we're going to launch. Basically, we're doing a Kickstarter, and I'm pretty sure we have it lined up for February. I'm probably announcing this too early, but but we're like, I'm already booking the covers for it. And it's going to deal with Oz and our world a little bit. So it's
what is this like? Because at this point, I mean, I don't think, and I don't think I'm going to say anything out of place here. And it's just what I think is that we're going to be entering where there's going to be some type of massive crossover event between a bunch of these characters that's going to create a paradigm shift. At some point, it's coming with Zenescope and the Grimm fairy tale. And so naturally getting Cinderella and Belle interacting with each other brings you one step closer to Robin Hood and Belle interacting, or Van Helsing and Belle interacting.
That's coming up. You
don't want to put, I guess, the two stars. No offense to Sky and Selma, I'm sorry, but Van Helsing and Robin Hood right now are the two most popular characters, from my understanding of Zenescope. You don't want to put Belle right in the big leagues. It's kind of like wrestling, right? If you have a brand new wrestler, you don't put that brand new wrestler up against your main star. You put them against a mid-carder and you build up their confidence, and you let them climb the ladder for 18 months or 2 years before they get a massive title shot. This way you have an actual story.
It's got to be natural. It's like, you're not going to throw in, you're not going to, I haven't watched wrestling since like the Attitude Era and like a little bit past, but it's like, you're not going to throw in like the brand new guy fighting Stone Cold like the first day for the match, because you're going to be like, well, obviously you're not even rooting for that guy. So if you're going to bring this new guy in and you're trying to build them up to become a fan favorite, you can't have them fight your biggest star, because no matter what they do, if they win, they're going to get booed. If they lose, they're going to get cheered and booed. Like, it's like, so it's the same thing with comics. Like, you're right. It's like you want to slowly build these characters up on, let them stand on their own, and then bring them in with the other characters and kind of let the other characters not take them under their wing, but also like carry a lot of the weight. So that way you can let like a Van Helsing or a Robin kind of carry a lot of the story. and let like a Belle or a Cindy or whoever you want to bring into it kind of like get a little breath to not be responsible for pushing everything forward and doing everything and being the growth, and more just like, oh, I like this character. Let's learn this character's personality. Let's figure out like what this one's about. I've read a ton of Robin Hood, but I've never read this character. Like maybe I want to read about this character.
Did you also feel though that if you do it with Cinderella and Belle, you could actually gauge the reaction too? Because if you go too quick and you put Belle with Robin Hood, it might be a bad match, or the audience might not be ready for it. Because I feel sometimes people try to do crossovers in comics, even the mainstream DC or Marvel, and the two characters should have never been put together. And if they did a soft test, for lack of a better word, and because there is a position where if all of a sudden you get a bad reaction, you have a one shot, not to do it again. And sometimes things just don't work.
Yeah.
I've seen it in movies. I've seen it in wrestling. I've seen it in other mediums. I've seen it in music. And sometimes it's not that two people are bad. It's just that something just didn't work. And you don't want to mess up on the big one, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, and it's also too, it's the story you tell. Like you can't just be like, I want these characters together because I want these characters together. If there's no story and there's nothing that makes sense for them to interact, and also if it's not fun for them to interact, like if them talking to each other or things that come up, if you can't figure out, like, I mean, that's the fun part about the writing part, but it's like you can't just be like, I want this and this, like, let's make it happen. It's like, okay, well, I want this and this. Can it work? Does it work? How do we make it work? Why would they be in the same city? Why would you don't want just like, oh, they were just like why are they, like, why is this? But I love continuity, and the cool thing about like being publisher and with a lot of the stuff, I get to have my hands in all the different stories and kind of plant seeds and all the different, like, there's stuff in Van Helsing that like we planted, I don't know, like probably like 9 months ago, and we're just gonna start seeing it in Grim Fairy Tales. Like it's just little plant, like, and like even characters that we put in like the swimsuit special. Like I like to use those specials as like launch points for like new characters or for like threads to like a new story arc.
Let's actually talk about that, because oddly, and this was planned, by the way, once I booked you, what I dropped on TikTok, what I dropped on my Facebook reel today was somewhat planned. It was my interview with Joe, and we were speaking about how modern comics are really hard to figure out where to start, because there's no continuity. They restart a volume 1 or an issue 1 every 6 months, every year, every 18 months. And there's 6, volume 1s when you go to Barnes and Noble or you go to a comic shop, and where the hell do you start? And I don't think with Zenescope, I think you've had one sort of soft restart with Grim Fairy Tales, which is volume 2. And I think that was after 130 issues, maybe 150.
125, yeah. Went to 125.
I was off a little bit.
Continuity. So but that's the thing is like, so we started like, if you've been reading Grimm from like since the not the reboot, but the relaunch, because if it was a reboot, it would have been like, all right, we took Sela and we just gave her new origin. Instead, we moved on to the next generation. We brought her daughter in, and we grew the world around her daughter and created different villains, different storylines.
A soft reboot. I said it was a soft reboot.
No, I'm not even being defensive. No, I'm just saying because but I love continuity. So like some of the issues of Grimm started pulling back in like older story characters, older storylines, and tried to see them in. Like there's a character, Alexa, who appears randomly for like an issue. I think it's Grimm 40, the Grimm Volume 1, 41 or 42. I think it's 42. And we just brought her back in Grimm Volume 2, like the story arc between 37 and 50. Like, so it's like stuff like that. Like, it's cool. I like bringing them back and making it natural and like building on this giant thing instead of like swiping it all away and building and giving you 10 different origin stories for the same character.
I think it's very problematic, where I understand from an economic level that everybody wants that issue 1 and issue 1 sell. And I get that on a business level. Sometimes you have to do what is good for business, and it's not necessarily the best thing for story. And I don't think sometimes if you're keeping your company alive, I'm not going to go fault the company if every 6 issues they want to restart an issue 1 because they know it's going to sell 30,000 copies and it's going to keep them in their arc in business and their company for the next 6 months. I completely understand, but that's not good for a story. And I think one of the things about Zenescope is that if you've been reading, Grimm fairy tales, and even when volume 2 started, and as you were saying, I guess the next generation, which is, I think, the nicest way how to say it, and the most positive, optimistic way to say it, I'll add. I'm going to steal that from moving forward here. Is it's the next gen, guys. It's like Star Trek, Next Generation.
That's right.
But I think that there is a position where you guys have done 100 plus issues in that one.
We're at 70. 80 just went to print today. So we're at 80. So technically it's like 205.
But even if you came in for volume 2 in the Next Generation and you don't know anything about that and you say, look, I'm not going to read those 125 issues. It's just too much content. I just want to focus on the new stuff.
Yeah.
There is something to be said about 80 issues being published. There's something to be said about that and not restarting it every year or every 2 years or every 3 years and not confusing your audience as far as continuity goes and as far as forward progression. Because I think that's a problem in comics where it's kind of like if I come into Zenescope, I know that cool, new generation, 1 through 80, there is no restart in that 1 to 80.
No,
so now I know if I'm a collector or if I just want to pick up the trade paperbacks or an omnibus or digitals, I know how to read that book. And I think that's a problem because I go to Marvel and I go to Spider-Gwen. I'm like, how the fuck do I read this book?
Well, I mean, and it's, I get it. I get their reasoning. I don't agree. I'm not saying I agree with it. I get what they do and why they do it. But I look at it as too, like, I'm a comic fan and like, maybe that's a negative for me, but like sometimes where it's like, I think you got to respect the fan and you got to respect the readers. You got to respect them for like, they're sticking with you. They're staying with you. They want to do it. It's like if you're a company that sells chocolate every day and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? We're selling cabbage. Like what about all the people that eat all the chocolate? It's like, oh, we do cabbage. Some of them are going to stick around because they're like, well, they did good at chocolate. I'll do good with cabbage. But it's like, I think like a lot of those companies that reboot and reboot, it's just you're not respecting the reader, and you're also like, I get it, you're doing it for the quick sales pitch, and the thing is, it's a business. It's definitely a business, but like we're lucky in terms that we can kind of keep our fans, our readership happy by building onto the characters and not rebooting and not rebranding every character every month, every 6 months, whatever it is, and like we do it lightly with every story arc. Like we don't like reboot, but we basically let you be able to come in every 12 issues, every 6 issues, every one shot, sometimes like that, where a slight introduction of the character, but not where it's like, this is exactly who they are. Like you try to come out with naturally, like they're talking a little bit about like you're picking it up by their conversation. But it's like, we get lucky too, because we have the collectible covers. So like that, like where like the even Marvel and DC, like they don't have the collectible covers. They don't have that collector's market really. They have incentive covers. They have like the 1 in 10, the 1 in 100, but they're not the same. Like we're a company that like basically is split into 2 companies. We have like our collectible company and we have the comics.
Let's actually talk about that too, because I have a slightly different position, and I like your collectible covers. I just got my Greg Bo Watson, Navy Girl Karis, and I just got the swimsuit Darius. Is it Santa Cruz? I want to say did the limited 15.
Durless, yeah, Durless Santa Cruz.
Because I love his work. I love his work. So good.
That is great. He does him and Greg Bell. I mean, like Durless, he does a lot of interiors for other companies. He did a few interiors for us for the Grimm Fairy Tales annual that just came up. But and then Greg Bell, I know he's done a bunch of interiors for us in the past.
Yeah. He did a really good Jabberwocky.
Yeah, he did the Alice Year 10 one shot, and then he did like this Tales of Terror, like Russian sleep experiment, I think it was. I know he did the cover. I can't remember if he did the interiors of it, but I know
he's done a bunch of stuff, and he's done some stuff that is not Greg Bo Watson. covers where he's known for that sexy pinup style. And there's a few Spirit Hunters that are really, really cool. And people are like, that's a Greg Watson cover. Like, what? It's a very cool thing. And to get Greg to do one of those is very difficult. And I'm slowly working on it. But anyway, I digress. But I have a different slight opinion where I think you guys are a really good comic company, and I think you have a really good story, and I think you found a hook how to get somebody in. And I think you've actually created the ultimate comic funnel that should be copied, where you have a hook, story, offer. So you can move that out and move that around, but this is basic funnelinics, where your collectible covers in many ways are a hook, but your story is what keeps people staying there. Because if you had nothing good in your book as a company, people be like, cool, I got this awesome cover. This company has nothing in their book. I'll come back every once in a while for a person.
Yeah. No, no, I mean, I appreciate that. Like that, I'm glad you say that, and that makes me feel better. Because like that's like I see a lot of that stuff, and not it's a business, people can do it, but it's like a lot of times I see stuff and I'm like, but what's the story? What's in that? Like I'm a comic fan. If I'm buying something, I'm giving you something. Like I love covers, I love art, but I want a story. I want something in there. I want to know that I'm coming back for something. Like I'll buy my favorite piece of art, I'll buy my thing, but I'm like, you're not going to keep me coming back if there's like nothing more than just that. Like
it creates a problem where there are people's Kickstarters that I don't even know what their story's about, but they have an artist I like. So guess what happens? If you don't have that artist on issue 2, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So like Sun Kuminaki is a good example. I'll use her. I don't think she's going to mind me using her name. But let's say that, somebody has her on issue 1 of their Kickstarter. You're cool. Or a comic company or store has her for a variant. I'm like, cool, I want that cover. But then they don't have her for 6 months. Am I shopping at that store? Or am I shopping on your Kickstarter? Or am I picking up things from your Kickstarter? Probably not. But if you have a good story on top of that, now we're getting somewhere. And I think that's what makes this interesting, is that there's been plenty of stuff that I picked up. Oh, cool, I like this person. I like Ebaz. I like Sun Kuminaki. There's a few others. I love Elias Chazoudis. I'm like, okay, Robin Hood is interesting. Maybe I'm not a fan of Mystere. Just Mystere doesn't connect with me for whatever reason. Cool. But I like Robin and Van Helsing. I enjoy Bell and alrighty. And then, but there's been plenty of times where I picked up a collectible cover. I'm like, who's Bell? And then I like the cover. And then I crack open the book and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. What is the next issue? Cool. I'll pick up a cover B.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you, man.
And that's why I say it's book story offer, because I think there's plenty of people like me, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'll be the first person, and we can let everybody in Zenescope to tell me I'm wrong on this, and all the fans. But I think there has to be people like me say, look, I like this art. I don't know what the story is, but then they open up the book and like, this is pretty good. I'm curious what happens next.
Well, that's our biggest hope. It's the good bait and switch, but it's not like you're bait and switching and you open it up, it's all blank. It's like you get a really cool, awesome cover. Like we work with some great artists, and like both interior and on covers, like great colorists, great letters, great like pencilers, inkers, like, and like that's the thing too, is like like the covers are the first thing people say. So you want that to be really good, but you don't want them to open it up and be like, what am I reading? What is this? Is this like there's so many times that I've done that. And I'm like over the years where you buy something, you're like, oh, that seems cool. I want to get that. I like this art. I want to support it. I want to sponsor it. And you look and you're like I can't, either the art I can't get into, or it's like it looks like airplane art, and nothing against the people that draw the stuff in the airplane, like to get you to put the thing on your neck. But I'm like, I want, like, that's not what I'm buying. If I'm like, it's not what I want. Like, if I want to take that, I'll take that out of the airplane. I'll hold on their little like plastic sheet. But I mean, that's our hope. Our hope is to kind of get you in with the covers, get you hooked, get you like, oh my God, I want to pick it up. But at the same time, it's our double-edged sword, because some people are like, that's all it is, and they don't pick it up because they're like, I don't want that. I don't want to check out the cover. So like we get tossed in this like we're thrown in the middle of like, all right, well, we have really good art, we have really great artists, we think we have really good stories, like from our opinion, not to be an ego, but we think we're trying to put out really good stories. Like that's our intention. We're not just doing it just to get you to buy the cover. We want you to buy the cover so we can tell our stories. Like that's the main reason we have the company. The main reason Joe and Ralph started the company was to create their own stories, to make their own things. Like they didn't do it just to be like, I just want to make covers. It just kind of evolved into being able to work with really great artists and make really good covers and package your really good story or your story that you have a passion for in it. And like, so it's like for us, it's tough because it's like some people.
But let me challenge that, because I think the industry has moved though. I don't think it's just a you problem anymore. I think it's everybody. I mean, we go on Kickstarter and this is the game. I don't think you can live without this. It's kind of like the saying, and I'm going to make a little bit of a controversial position. I forget who said it, but it's kind of like money and politics are inseparable at this point. And whether it's a good thing or it's a bad thing, I don't think that if you're doing comics and we look at, I mean, I know I can name a bunch of companies off the top of my head. Obviously, Merc Mag, Comics Elite, Donuts Eating Flesh or Flesh Eating Donuts.
I've never even heard of that one.
Mad Zombie is another one. Stupid Little Monkey. Everybody's playing this game. I mean, BDI. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Scout Comics is another one that plays a big variant game. So I think at this point, I think it's a necessity. And this is where I think it's very interesting because I guess the way I view it is that I go and look at a company. I'm like, what is this about? Because I look at the cover, then I look at interior, then I look at, how much they're funding on Kickstarter. Then I go do research on people. And I mean, I do more due diligence. So I'm not going to go randomly pick something up. But also, I'll read Zenescope. And how I read Zenescope first is I read it digitally in Comixology. Okay. So my cost to getting into Zenescope, as far as story-wise, was dirt cheap.
Yeah.
So I didn't go out and spend $75 on a gallery edition of you guys' book. I'm going to take a risk, guys. Yeah. No, I read Gretel on NetGalley because they wanted me to review it.
Oh, cool.
And it was pretty cool. And I read it on that. And then I got a Comixology, and then I read a bunch of stuff like Oz. I read a bunch of Robin Hood. I read some Wonderland. And then I was collecting the covers a little bit here and there. And then I got more and more involved. So that's what I think, is that I don't think it's just, I think everybody's thinking that because I think I have to. I mean,
that's how the Kickstarter is like. I mean, you see it now. Every Kickstarter has to have tiers and tiers and tiers of different covers. The one I saw the other day, which is crazy to me, there was an entire AI driven one. I know that's a whole other thing, but I was like, it was all AI covers. And I was like, this is crazy. I was like, this thing's like $19,000. And I was like, they spent $0 on it. I was like, I wouldn't like, and it's more just because like, I look at that as when if you click on a website and you're like, I don't know, all these images are faded and they look weird and they're all low res. I'm like, I don't think I should put my credit card on this. And that's the same way I feel when I see like that, where it's like, there's no artist. I'm like, is there going to be a book on the inside of this? Or are you guys collecting the money off of this? Like that, like, but also like I don't fund a ton of Kickstarters. I'll go through and I'll pick the ones I like or ones that are interesting to me or something like that. Or if it's someone I know and I'm like, you know what, I want to check it out and support them at the same time. But like, it's a whole nother thing. Like Kickstarter is really crazy. And you're right though. It's like everybody's like, you have to have 10 covers, 15 covers, 20 covers. And it's like, but it's a 22-page book. And is there a plan to do more than these 22 pages? Or are you going to sell me 40 covers on one 22-page book and we're never going to hear from you again? And you're going to go do another book, like another story or another company or whatever it is. Like that's got to be crazy from the fan point of view. Like,
it's very odd, and I'm actually pulling out. So I backed a company called Bad Donut. Bad Donut did, they're associated with, I think, Zombies Eating Flesh, and they've done Bad Wolf and other things. And once it reached 40,000, I then got in at that point. When they reached 40,000, I'm like, look, if 900 people are behind this. There must be something here I'm missing. I don't know what I'm missing at the moment, but I'm going to go with the crowd on it.
Yeah.
And they have some cool covers, and they had a lot of cool people on that. And they had some artists I knew. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll take the risk. I will take a $50 risk, get 2 or 3 covers. And it's a fun book. It's a cool book. I'm probably going to back them if they come out with issue 2. But again, I also have to look at consensus. But then I look at everybody else's Kickstarter. I'm like, you had 8 covers, and it's like, it's tricky because I do agree where I don't know if you're going to produce something. And I've said this before, and it sounds weird. I would rather have a really bad DC comic book, but know I'm going to get one every single month.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you're putting your money. You're putting your money. You want to get something for your money. You work for your money. You want other people to work hard for their money and take it too. And like I'm not just giving it to you. Like it's not charity. Like you're telling me you're going to give me something, then you got to give me something. I mean, but yeah, it's like it's. I think it's again, it's like it's a very double-edged sword because it's very great that there's so many people that have the ability, like because like we get submissions all the time. We get submissions from writers, we get submissions from artists, we get submissions from every part of the comic, like from letters, and like the worst thing about it for me is that I can't give them all a job. Like you can't hire every single person because it's just not like we don't produce like enough, and like I to hire everybody that like wants something. So like it's really cool that there's an outlet for people to be able to like that have a passion that really want to put in the work and put in the time and put in the effort and believe in what they have that they can create something. And then like at the same time, you're always gonna have bad eggs, you're gonna have bad apples, you're gonna have people that don't really care about putting out a good story. They just see it as like, oh well, they just made $100,000. I can do that.
Let me actually ask you this, because obviously Zenescope has done a bunch of Kickstarters. I think you've just did your first single issue, which should come out soon enough, but you've done a bunch of art books. I think you kickstarted like an animated series, like the first episode, which is pretty cool. I did not know there was a safe for work version on that DVD, and I watched it with somebody who was very upset with me for a week.
Yeah, it could be awkward if you're watching other people, especially when there's like cocaine and a bunch of F-bombs, and you're just like
that wasn't the issue. It was the nudity, and
well, they're at the campfire.
I wasn't ready for it, and neither was the person I was with, and they were not happy with me. And then fast forward, I'm looking at the special features. I'm like, "There's a safer work version, motherfucker!" Like,
no, that was like I think that was our first Kickstarter, and we went crazy. We started putting like goals or like add-ons and things like that we would technically need to kickstart just to get made. like we didn't know what we were doing. We were just like it took us forever to fulfill that Kickstarter because we're like, all right, well, we'll add this tier level, now that tier level, and we're like, well, how do we get that? We got to make this stuff now. We're putting action figures on there. We're like, oh, we didn't even make those yet. We got to make those, and it's like that was our first one, and thankfully we got it all out. It took forever. People were angry for a good while, but it was something like we jumped in way too big too early, but it's like we learned from it, and it's crazy because it was just like we actually funded it like a cartoon, like we funded a single episode, like which is awesome.
But my whole thing is that obviously I am right now getting fed up with Kickstarter because people are taking forever. I have projects that were supposed to be in my hand in February, and now they're looking at May. So of the next year, I've had projects where the whole project's end goal changed, which I don't think is legal. I think that's fraud by definition. I think that is pretty fraud. And I may or may not be calling the Michigan Attorney General on that one. I mean, that's the definition of fraud. If you say you're going to give me a graphic novel and then you give me a floppy, I mean, that's
that's insane. That's crazy.
That is legitly the definition of fraud, and the person openly admitted it on YouTube. So I heard the Michigan's prosecution is having a low crime year, and their success rate in the court's not doing very well. So don't worry, guys.
The only thing that sucks for that person, like I don't know who that is. I have no idea, but it doesn't matter. Like the fact that they at least gave you, like, I'm not saying it's right, but the fact that they gave you the single issue.
No, they didn't give it yet. They didn't give it yet. It gets worse. That's even crazy. It gets worse. No. It gets way worse. So they're kickstarting a single issue. So they're basically breaking up their graphic novel into 3 single issues. They say they're going to give their all their legacy backers from the graphic novel a free copy of the single issue at no cost to the people already backed.
Because they
But
spent the money on the first one.
how is that even possible? Because that's assuming that first issue is going to fund. What happens if that first issue doesn't fund? What happens if you only fund, you set your goal at 5K and you make 7 and you can't cover the cost to print it? Like, you're creating a perpetuity problem machine.
Well, that's the thing too, is a lot of people don't know how much time and money goes into a single issue of a comic book. Like, they look at it and they're like, oh, well, you can just do this and it's gonna be that, and then they either just got a cover, or they didn't book a reliable interior artist, or they didn't really lock in a contract with an interior artist, or like, there's a million things that can happen. But like that, like right there, that shows you right there that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it could be a scam. I don't know. I'm not going to study for that. But at the same time, it could just be someone that was like, I thought I could do this. And then when they start doing it, they're like, oh my God, I can't do that. Like,
what in this person's defense, because I know who it is, and the person was on my show promoting the graphic novel, and I backed it. And I think the person just had 1 or 2 bad Kickstarters. I think either they thought they were going to do 20,000 on a graphic novel and they did 9. And they said, oh my God, what the hell did I get myself into? And then I really messed up and I missed it and I undershot my position and I need to get myself out, and this is the way to do it. And that could be it. It could be that somebody just looked at the writing and said this would be better in floppies and I'll make more money, so let me get out of the graphic novel. It could be a million things, but this is where what I like about you guys with your Kickstarters, and why I wanted to bring this up, is that you run a professional Kickstarter as a company. And this is where I'm going, is that I only want to deal with professionals now on Kickstarter because I've been burned too many times.
Yeah.
And I think it's a real problem, because how does somebody who's small, who does 3,000-4,000, is losing money on their campaign, but is slowly climbing up, I've been systematically to some degree eliminated because I've been burned 4, 5, 20 times. I can't go to somebody who's not gonna not deliver and spend $100 and not get anything, or get my product 3.5 years later.
Yeah, where it's like this isn't worth $200 to me anymore. This is just like, thanks for getting. You're not even easing my headache. I'm just like, I don't even know what this is anymore. I'm gonna maybe sell it. I'm gonna maybe put it in a box somewhere. I'm maybe just gonna be like, I don't want this anymore. Like I mean, again, like the thing is, we had to like learn through trial and error and get there. But like, that's the thing is, we started realizing like, okay, like you got to go with a plan. Like every Kickstarter is almost like a mini business. You got to treat each project like it's your company. Like you're creating a product, and like, what's the cost? What's the risk? How long is it actually going to take? Can you get stuff done in advance to basically get you running forward? Do you have the printer lined up? Like, I look at a lot of those people that don't deliver. It's because they either didn't have a printer lined up, or they didn't realize how long like it's going to actually take, especially if they're like printing in like China, or they're printing overseas, or things like that. They're not accounting for the 2.5 month delivery time, or they're not accounting for, like, if it's Chinese New Year, you're not getting your stuff in. Like, you're not getting your stuff in. You're add another month to 60 days on top of that. But it's like, and also too, it's a lot of times like, I feel like it's probably just, I want to be optimistic and be like, a lot of times it's just people not knowing what they're doing and just getting in over their head.
I think it's also cash flow.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we were speaking privately about my business, and I have enough money to cash flow my business, but I'm owed a lot of merch. Yeah. And I also have a lot of merch that's locked up, and it's very complicated. And there's a reason why my hair is going gray, because when you have a lot of merch locked up and you have a lot of stuff that's owed to you, and it's very complicated and it's very stressful, and I can't do anything about it. I think I have good merch coming in. It's just beyond frustrating. Yeah. And I'm lucky that I didn't borrow money to run my business, but it's beyond frustrating because I have only 4 or 5 moves on my board to make, versus if I had that merch in, I would have about 20 to 25. Yeah. And I think a lot of times creators sometimes don't have cash flow problems and say, great, I have 3 moves on my board, but then they want to go and create another book. And that's my biggest pet peeve. My biggest pet peeve on Kickstarter that makes me angry is when I don't have my book and you just launched another project.
Right.
And I've had positions where somebody launched issue 2 and I didn't get issue 1 yet. And I'm like,
yeah, that's a little like we've done it, but we've done it where it's like, all right, we just finished whatever, like we finished our Wonderland card Kickstarter, but we know when it's going to be delivered. It's going to be like it's already worked out to this. But
I'll make a comparison. If you launched another card project,
yeah,
6 weeks after you did the Wonderland card project, I would be the first one to say, guys, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't do that because internally we'd be like, we can't do that. Like, you can't be like.
You understand why I would react that way, because I'd be like, I don't even have the first one or the second one yet, and you just launched 3. Like,
well, it's even that. It's like, I don't even know if I like this stuff, and you're trying to convince me to get it again, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. You didn't give me the first one, and also too, we spent years developing a trust. Like, that's the thing too. Like, a lot of these people come out and they're like, I'm running 3 Kickstarters and they didn't deliver 1 yet. And it's like you got to build up a trust. You got to show people that you can create something, and I think there's a lot of these people get pulled in that hole where they're like, well, I thought I was going to make this money at this Kickstarter. I realized how much money I need, so I'm going to try to make it on this Kickstarter to pay for that Kickstarter. And then all of a sudden they have the second Kickstarter doesn't make any money because people are like, I didn't get my stuff for the first one, so we're not funding your second one. So now it's like I can't fund the second one and I can't fund the first one. So let's launch something different and do the third one, and then they just keep doing this. Like, I mean, I'm glad I don't spend enough time on there to worry about it. Like, I don't even know if I barely have enough time to read new comic. Like, I don't read new comics as much anymore. I read our stuff, and then I buy paperbacks and I buy omnibuses and things like that, and just books to kind of keep myself going and stay in the comic world. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's a crazy game out there.
I also think that Kickstarter, and I'll be very honest, is its own comic world, where I don't think it is a good representation of the whole industry, because crowdfunding as an entity is not a business the same way that what you guys put out every month when you put out 12 bucks. Yeah. It's not the same. It's not the same. It's not in comic shops. It's not through Diamond. It's not through another distributor. And it's not the same. And also, people might spend more money on crowdfunding because they're directly funding a project and an idea and a dream that normally couldn't get made, or it would be much harder to get made. And I think people might be more generous on a Kickstarter.
Well, that's the crazy thing. I don't know what Kickstarter's plans are or what their ideas are, but the crazy thing to me is like, how haven't you started a comic distribution business that just distributes the comics that are funded solely through you? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me how they haven't done that yet. Because then you can actually get into stores and you create your own chain. Like,
I don't think Kickstarter wants to do that, because I don't think the real money for Kickstarter in pop culture is in board games and in high-end board games that are licensed. So Avatar: The Last Airbender had a board game, and I think did like $2 or $3 million. It might have done like $6 million for all I know. Jeez. But that's where the real money's at for Kickstarter. Very few comics do 100,000. Very few do 1 million on Kickstarter. If any have ever done it, I don't know. And then what is it? I mean, Eric July did his own thing on crowdfunding, whatever he did on his own platform. And then you had Brandon Sanderson, who did what, 50 million?
Oh yeah, that was crazy. I remember. I honestly have never read a Brandon Sanderson book in my life, but I remember David Wall, our editor in chief. He's like, "Oh, did you see that?" And I'm like, "I don't even know what that is." And I'm like, "This is insane." like it was what, 3 books or something like that. He was releasing 3 books, and it was like
3 or 4. And the real question is that, are the books good? Because are they $50 million good? Is the $1 million question here? So that's the no pun intended. It's also the time frame when you're going to get all 4 of those books, because that's the real question. Is that cool? There's 4 novels. He's a great writer, from my understanding. So I think he finished the Eye of Time series after I forgot who wrote the Eye of Time, passed away. But Brandon Sanderson, I think, finished that series off on issue 12. But my point is that, are those 4 books ever going to be delivered to their backers, and how long is it going to
Yeah,
take?
it's like, would you fund a Kickstarter that is run by George R. R. Martin for like, and then you're like all the people that are waiting for Game of Thrones to end? Like it could be in that situation. I mean, who knows? I mean, probably not for like this. For this, the raise it. Maybe he's just very. Maybe he's a quick writer and he can kind of churn out books, maybe 1 or 2 a year. So maybe that's what helps there. I mean, it's.
I don't know. I'm not knocking it. I just think that couldn't fly in a regular business setting. And I like Kickstarter. I think Kickstarter is great, but I also think that it's not an evaluation in which that my investor hat comes on, and my investor hat says, "Great, you have a Kickstarter and you raised $6 million in your Kickstarter." I have to take into consideration that Kickstarter is a different market completely than the rest of the comic world. And what did you do in shops? What did you do everything else? And then we combine your Kickstarter, and we have to discount that because that's just a different beast collectively. And I think so. I evaluate Zenescope in a very interesting position because you guys will do $100,000 on a trading card set, and then you actually have a comic business and an entertainment business and a media business. And your Kickstarter is not. I don't think the $100,000 made or break Zenescope when you did the Grim Fairy Tales trading card set. It was helpful. It made the
Oh
product.
yeah, I mean, every dollar helps. But no, I mean, like for more, it was just like it was more directed towards let's create this new product that we haven't created. Like that's the thing too is like you want to create, you want to keep creating, you want to grow your fan base, but you want to do it at as little risk to yourself as possible if you can. Not most time you can't. I mean, but like that's the benefit we see with Kickstarter is like we're able to raise $100,000 for the Wonderland like cards. So now we can create them, and then we can also have a plan where we're like, okay, we're not just going to give them to the Kickstarter backers. We're going to be able to get them in the shops. We're going to be able to get them on our website. We're going to take them to trade shows.
I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for that because we all know the plan. I didn't tell anybody the plan. I'm going to tell you the plan. I'm hoping a blaster box or one of the boxes that has like 20 packs comes onto the website. I got $200 in rewards, and I just got my gold. Maybe
Nice.
I think I got my gold on like December 27th, which is
awesome.
awesome. I'm super excited for it, and I have like 100 and like 200 and like $1, and that's the plan. Is that
the what's it called? They're hobby boxes. The ones that come with they come with the sketch card in it.
The sketch. I think there's a little particular and there's an autograph, right?
I think so. I know I'm not too much involved in the cards itself besides proofing them, and I book all the sketch cards. So like I have a box of sketch cards sitting in my office. Like just sitting there, and I'm like, oh, these are awesome. And I'm like,
it might even get crazier. It might even get crazier because on the scratch off, I pulled the 50% off the entire web store as well,
nice.
coupon code. So I'm gonna be using that efficiently too. The last thing I want
cards are awesome. Like I love cards. Like and they're and like that's the thing is like I'm like a collector too. Like I love not just like comics in the industry. Like I love this stuff. Like I love pop culture. I love collecting things. So it's like when these things come out, I'm like, when we're coming up with ideas for it and how to do it, it's like, what we like, what are we obsessed with? What's going to get us hooked on this stuff?
Yeah, let's actually talk about that.
From there.
Let's actually talk about the card stuff because I'm a huge card guy. I buy a few things every year. I buy a Topps Baseball Series 1. I usually buy a hobby box. I'll buy a jumbo. Your hobby box, you get an autograph or a relic. Your jumbo, you get 3 autographs in there. And then Series 2, you buy the same thing. And then I'll just go to Target and pick up blasters or hangers or individual packs. Just because I'm looking for cards and I'm looking for cool stuff. I'm a big Topps Now guy. So I buy a lot of Topps Now stuff. And I hunt down cool stuff. I'm a big autograph hunter. I really like buying college stuff now, especially women college sports. Because I actually think I sell this stuff in my eBay store. It's amazing. And then obviously I buy some other stuff, and I love my Topps Chrome sets. So I love cards, and I'm not the only one. And one of the cool things that Marvel released, I think in August of last year, was the anime set, Marvel Anime.
Okay.
And it's a very cool set, and it was done by Upper Deck. And so it's kind of non-sports trading cards are huge, and sports collecting and sports cards are huge anyway. And then that obviously goes into everything else. And so, what is that like? Because there's clearly a demand for this, and I don't think it's just the Zenescope thing anymore. I
No,
think
I mean, you see it. What's that Disney one? The Lorcana or whatever it is. That thing's going off. Then you have Pokemon, the Magic the Gathering. You have, and I mean, yeah, then you have football, basketball, baseball,
you got
hockey.
the One Piece game. The One Piece game is insane.
I
I
say
mean,
I can't. You can't even keep up with all of it, which is good and bad. It's like because like it gives every fan base room to breathe and room to create something and be like, oh, okay, I love this stuff. Like I feel bad for the people that like collect everything because you're gonna lose your mind and like because you're like I can't get all this, but I mean for us it's awesome because it lets us get into a mark. Like the biggest thing too is like a lot of it's like it's being able to get the artwork that we've created over all these years back out like from like buried in the archives out there back to people, but also gives us the ability to get people that maybe aren't reading our comics that only collect cards, but now they're like, I want to know what this character is. I want to know this story. I just got an X-Men, I got a Wolverine card. I never read an X-Men book before. Who's Wolverine? I want to know this. Like that's one of our biggest hopes that you can convert like it's a small number, but it's to convert people that collect cards into reading your comics. Like, because there's people that just I buy cards. That's it. I don't buy anything else. They only buy cards. They break the cards. They look at all that stuff. Like, our hope is that we can grow a new product line where we can cultivate collectors of cards, but also too you want to be able to have some crossover. You want to be able to get the people that read our comics to collect the cards. Want to get the people that only read collect the cards, read the comics because we're a comic book company. So you want to. The goal always is to grow the comics.
Did you also feel that at this point, any company that is worth their salt, and I've learned this where obviously I've built and in 2024, I'm definitely focusing more on the card side of it because I think I have the comic side down pretty well. And so obviously I'm really into that space and I'm getting more and more into that space on the card side because it's a nice balance to comics. Because when comics don't work, cards work in my world, and when cards don't work, comics do usually. And so do you feel that it also creates a competitive advantage? Because at this stage, I mean, obviously you have competitors. I don't think that's a secret. And some of them have cards or something comparable. And now you have that too. And there's another company that may or may not have cards. And it's just another, I guess, sector that you're in the space, for lack of a better word, because I feel like you have to be competitive because otherwise you're going to go extinct.
Yeah, I mean, well, the basic for us, not to say we don't worry about competition. Like we know it's out there. We see what we see what the competition does, but we don't base our moves, our plans based solely off of what the competition is doing. It's like, what do we want to create? What do we think our fans are going to like? How can we make sure what we give them is the best thing? And also, when it's less of a competition of like, well, we got to do it because they're doing it. It's more like, how do we do something cooler that they didn't even think of yet? That we can do that's like, and that goes across the board from creating products of like the cards or creating covers or creating cover sets or even concepts where it's like, oh, we're going to do the candy boxes or we're going to do the cereal boxes or we're going to do the Ketchum cosplays. Like it's less worrying about like the actual competition that competes for the dollars, and a lot of times we're competing with ourselves. It's like, all right, well, how do we keep ourselves from being bored with this collectible stuff? How do we keep ourselves from being like bored? Because if we get bored, then the fans are going to get bored. Because and the fans are going to get bored quicker because they're spending their money to keep our dreams going. So it's like you got to make sure you're ahead of the fans being bored, and you got to make sure you're keeping them excited and you're keeping them having fun. And the best way to do that is look like, all right, well, what could like looking at it from their point of view, like what can we make next, or what can we improve on that is going to make our fans like us more and like our stuff more, and we're going to like it more. We're going to get reinvigorated and be excited about it. And that's a lot of times where we go. We don't really look at like to say we don't look at the competition. We look at them and it's more like, again, like what I said I think before we went live, like I watch everything. It's like I don't need to interact, and it's more just like, okay, like let's see what's moving, what's working. You can see it like and kind of just develop like, all right, well, what's a different way to do that? It's the same thing with stories. It's like every story has been told one way or another. It's like, what's your twist on it? What's your spin on that? Like, how do you tell that? How do you tell that same story different? How do you tell Red Riding Hood different? How do you tell Belle different? How do you make cards different? How do you make, like, what's your angle on it? What are you going to do that's going to make people excited about it? And why should they be excited about it? And that's where we try to do. It's competing with ourselves all the time and trying to get better.
So I'm so different. I look at everybody and I say, cool, where is the ball moving and how do I get there first? So I will go on my competition's eBay and I'm like, cool, they got this, and this product. They don't have this product. And I think this product is cool. And nobody's looking at this company over here. I'm going to bet on them because they're similar veins and I want to get all their early stuff. And so I look at everybody. I don't need to interact, but I'm looking saying, cool, does somebody have an idea that's working for them? And how do I find a comparable that isn't being looked at yet? That is the future. And that's how I run my eBay business to some degree. And then I have basic fundamentals and I see if it matches. So I have a guide sheet essentially when I buy merch. And I'm like, cool, does this match A, B, C, and D? And is anybody looking at this? Okay, statistically, it should work. And then sometimes you have to take a spec on it. And you got to say, I'm going to just throw it and maybe we'll get a touchdown in the end zone.
No, I mean, we do that too. Like we do it to a point where like, all right, we really like this thing. We really want to do this program or we really want to do like this type of collectible. And it just doesn't pick up. And it's like, and sometimes it's harder because we're putting out a lot of money sometimes to do it. But like you gotta adapt, you gotta evolve, and sometimes you gotta see it through. Where it's like, okay, like it didn't work right now, but it doesn't mean it's a bad idea. Like I've said it before too. It's like there's no such thing as like a good or a bad idea. It's more just like the timing and the execution of it. Like so, like for us, it's a little bit different. Like because you're talking about like going out and getting different product and banking on this will be the next popular product, where we're trying to create the next popular product, which we do the same thing you're talking about too. It's like we look at like, oh, okay, well, we have comic collectors and we have cover collectors and we have card collectors. Like, all right, well, what about coin collectors? Like, what could we do that makes sense for our brand that could do with coins? And we just did it with the Ketchum coins, where like it's the collectability mixed with our brand, mixed with like coins. So it's like trying to make something that like existed already ours. Like, and it's figuring out how to make that work for our fans. And then you ride the line between, you don't want to just make something to make something, because then it's just, you're just like, give me your money. It's like, no, we're going to make it for you because it's like, this is cool. We think this is going to be really cool. And we have plans to build around it. And like, you can only build as much as your fan base supports you. Luckily, we've been super lucky. Like we have a really dedicated fan base and they support us a lot. So it's like, it gives us this ability to kind of just like take risks and do something different. And I don't know. I mean, like we appreciate. We talk about that literally every day. Like we'll talk about how we appreciate like the VIPs, and not just the VIPs, but like our fan base that like supports us. Like there's not, you see a lot of companies come and go, and it comes down to like, were they creating things for themselves, or were they creating things for people to want and to grow with? And I feel like we hit a good like mark with our fans, because like we try to make them happy. Like, we do the VIP events, we do all these different things that we try to make sure that they're happy, because we know if they're not happy, we don't get to do our dream. We don't get to do what we want to do. And like so like it's not like, I mean, you always have to look at the competition to make sure that you're not copying them. Like, you don't want to do something they just did and you're like, oh crap, I didn't realize that. So you have to keep looking to make sure you don't accidentally do something they did. Because like the creative field, you're always going to run into like similar stories or similar art or similar ideas, just because like you all exist in the world and your ideas are coming from what you're getting.
Let's be realistic. The idea that was copied by everybody this year was Barbie. I mean, there was no getting around that with every company. If you were an independent comic company or a major one or doing a variant, you had a Barbie variant this year. Everybody had one. Everybody had a pass to do it, because there's only going to be 3 Barbie movies. Again, only 3.
The thing is, we didn't do it on purpose. because it was supposed to come out. It got delayed. Didn't it get delayed with the pandemic and stuff like that?
No. I don't think it got delayed. I think Oppenheimer and Barbie were the last two before all of this, and I don't think it got delayed. It might have been delayed, but
I think it got delayed but we came up with the thing where like, and then it wound up our first like Zen box like with the Barbie, and it came out like the same time. I'm like, oh man, like it worked out. Like
the point I'm getting at here is that everybody did it, but that was an unavoidable position because, but nobody. I don't feel that. I have like 4 or 5 different companies that did Barbie stuff, and they're all different, but they're all the same base concept. But I don't consider that copying. I consider that just, look, if you didn't do a Barbie cover during this time, then you missed the boat, and you really didn't take the appropriate shot.
Because you gotta read what the world is around you. Like you're gonna have to do what's around. Like especially too with our cosplay covers, we do sometimes we'll aim like, okay, like if we don't have an idea right off the bat, we're like, whoa, what's kind of coming up? What's out there? What haven't we seen? What's popular? And let's see if we can do something with that. That's kind of how we started with our May the 4th stuff. Like I think it was around the time with like the Mandalorian launching and things like that. So we're like, well, what if we did more May the 4th cosplay? And then it kind of evolved into a May the 4th pinup book. And now we've created it as like a holiday, a stream for our fans. Like, so it's like, like if they were coming out with a Barbie show and it was as popular as some of this stuff, you'd probably wind up running into the same thing where it's like, oh, we're having Barbie Day. And it's like, here, we're going to do these like things like that. But yeah, I mean, you definitely have to read pop culture. Like that's the thing is you got to ride the waves sometimes, but you also got to sometimes like see where the wave's going to crash down and be like, all right, well, what can we make that's a different wave before a new wave's there?
My favorite book. I have 2 favorite books: The Power of Zero, which is about paying 0 taxes, and Blue Ocean Strategy. And if you ever want to run a business, you should read both of those books. Preferably read Blue Ocean Strategy first, and then Power of Zero. And you'll be golden if you get the most and you train those books for all their knowledge. It's like 500 pages, everybody. It'll change your trajectory completely. And I think in many ways, Zenescope has found a blue ocean initially for a while. And I think a bunch of people, I think that ocean's become a little bloody. I'll state that very, very honestly, because it's a variant trap is what's happened. Unfortunately, everybody is doing variants. And when there's all these good products, I hate to say this, but it forces me as an individual to pick and choose because there's a lot of really good product out there. So like, I'll give an example. When did you guys launch the cards? Was that November?
The Grimm cards was
Wonderland.
Wonderland was November.
Because in November, I didn't back many people's Kickstarters because I knew I was backing yours. But let's say there was 15 great campaigns going on. And this is probably what's going to happen at some point is that there's going to be 15 great campaigns going on. And you guys are going to have one. Somebody else might have one. Somebody might have a third one over there. And then as a consumer, I'm going to have to pick and choose. Well, and it's going to be complicated.
Well, that's when it becomes like the movie industry. It's like they don't all release their movies on the same weekend. So you start working around like, okay, we can't have like you had the Oppenheimer and Barbie thing, but I think they both wanted each other to move away from it, and it wound up being a good marketing campaign for them. But a lot of movies, you see them, they plan their release windows around, oh, well, they're going to come out with this. We're going to come out this week later, 2 weeks later. Like, and I mean, that might be the growth of Kickstarters or, I mean, that's just sales in general. Like if you're selling a product that there's other people selling it, you're going to want to make sure you're not dropping it in the same week in a comic store where there's 50 different comics coming out that day. You want to make sure if you're launching a number 1, you want to do it when there's like 20 or whatever. I mean, that's just those numbers are all.
Also, the other thing is that it's a WWE thing. WWE has 4 or 5 major pay-per-views. It's Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Money in the Bank, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. Those are the big ones. So if you're going to have a massive thing going on, you're going to want to do it at WrestleMania. You're going to want to do it at SummerSlam. You're going to want to do it at Survivor Series. Yeah. And that's the other thing, too, that I also think is going to happen on Kickstarter as it evolves. And even with companies in general is that if and I think companies are going to define months saying, look, this is our month where we drop the book.
Yeah.
So in September, Company X drops their book, and other companies say, look, they're going to come out swinging, and they're going to be aiming for a $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 campaign, and they're going to pull out all the stops. Maybe we don't want to do something in September, massive.
Yeah.
And
Because there's a limited amount of funds and a limited amount of fans, so it's like you can't, like, they're not going to be able to, I just dropped $10,000 this month. Like, what? Like, I'm not eating, but I dropped $10,000 this month. I
dropped enough money on those Wonderland cards between the campaign and then backer kit. It is a car payment and a half.
Thank you.
But I'm excited for it. I bought so technically one thing is a gift. I bought 2 plushies that I'm gonna give to my niece because you gotta start them young. She's like 20 months old. Young guys. So young as Zenescope fan, guys, is my niece at the moment. I'm turning her into a Pokemon fan too. It's gonna be great. But so I have 2 of those. Then I think I bought a blaster box. I think I bought some Kickstarter packs. I think I bought 2 hobby boxes. So that's like 400 right there. The plushies is 460. I think I bought 2 comics and then some other stuff. I might even bought like another blaster, and I think I bought like a hanger or which one has the Cyberpunk cards in it?
I don't know. We did a ton of sets because we did like the Madness sets. I don't even know which one the Cyberpunk one was in. Yeah, I stick into the comic side. Like I stay away from like the actual like Kickstarter stuff. That's Jen. Jen runs a lot. Jen and Joe pretty much are the brain and the engine behind that. Besides Chris and Ashley, who put all the cards and everything together.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm a small little 1-person operation.
And I mean, as long as you're having fun, like that's the thing is like you're having fun, you're not going to regret it. Like, I mean, hopefully you don't regret it, but it's like you're having fun. It's like you get that stuff, and then like say if you're collecting for yourself, you get to collect, but also doubles. You get the trade, you get to kind of sell them. Like you get to do like, I mean, that's the cool thing about collectibles is that you have the ability to like, I love this for now, but you know what? I want this so I can sell this.
I made a lot of money on the cereal cards. I had a 50% off, and I bought 30 packs.
That helps.
And so I'm at a barbecue. I'm 2 beers in, and I'm with my best friend, and I'm like, do I do it? And they're like, yeah, just fucking go for it. Just go for it. And like, I was waiting for it. The packs were discounted by $3 already, and they were 10 a pack. I'm like, I'm all the way in, guys. And so I was tempted to buy 50. And then I wound up selling a good chunk of that for a really good profit, because just to break this down, those cereal cards go for anywhere from 8 to 12, the regular ones. The new ones go for like 15, depending on the ones. Some of them are harder to sell. Like nothing against Fruity Pebbles, but that one doesn't move. And Cocoa Puffs doesn't move. But like Sugar Snaps, that thing moves like at like $14 all day.
That's crazy. It's crazy that it's got like different ones move a little bit better than the other ones. Like, to us, I look at it as a set, so I'm like, oh, okay, I love all these pieces. But it's funny that they like just the fan.
And then in Robin Hood, so the icons by eBay, Robin Hood nude, Van Helsing nude, and Belle move really well.
Okay.
Gretel is tougher. Cinderella, I only have 1 Cinderella nude, so I don't know how that one moves. And then the regular ones move at like $4, and then the more risque but not nude ones, they also move maybe $6, $7 a pop. But like Robin Hood moves for like $18 by eBay nude, and Van Helsing moves for like 18, and Belle moves. But what's crazy is that Belle has 2 versions, right? Okay. So the version from Xmas in July moves faster than the redone version. So it's wild. And then I haven't sold the Christmas ones, but
it's crazy. It's crazy, but I mean, it's cool. Like, cause that's the thing is like to be like I can hear it with you. Like it's just the excitement about it. Like that. I mean, we don't live that long, but we can have fun with all this stuff. Like that's the That's what's awesome. Is like you can find something that just gets you excited for like.
So to bring this even full circle, because obviously I'm very excited for the Wonderland stuff. I am tapped out. At some point, hopefully there will be some product left over, and then I will definitely be using my rewards. I hope I sneak right in. I may be buying a blaster box tomorrow because it is a special day tomorrow for me.
Is your birthday coming up?
Yes, it is.
Oh, man, happy birthday! Well, happy pre-birthday.
Oh, it's gonna be great. It's great. Yeah, I'm so excited. And I have a $20 coupon too, which is even crazier.
Nice.
I really racked up my rewards.
You're a VIP too, so I mean, you gotta get the birthday book in, but you'll get the birthday book too.
Yeah. I'm excited for that too. I'm very excited. I enjoyed the balloon animals by Keith Garvey last year. I thought
that was a cool one. I threw that concept at him. I was like, I don't know what's gonna come back. I was like, and he nailed it. I was like,
I still think the one Chazus did was
with the cupcake.
Not the cupcake, no. I think it was like white in the back, and I think she was holding like a cake in her hand. It was the birthday book, so everybody got it. I think it was my first year that I was a VIP, which was 3 years ago. That book came out, and that book is a great book. And that book is my favorite birthday book because the Keith Garvey, my second year was like the present that she was holding. But the first one is really, really good. That Chazus did. And it's like, it's just so just like stripper coming out of a cake.
Like we work with some great artists. Like I love Elias. I mean Garvey. I mean, that's things like they're all really good. And it's just like for me, that's why I love my job too. It's like it's Christmas for me. Every day I'm getting new art in my email. So it's like whether it's like Guillermo Fajardo give me a cover or Igor Vitorino or Ebass or like Sun, it's awesome. Like I love that. Like that's so exciting to kind of like something new comes in, even if it's just layouts. I'm like, yeah, like you just get pumped for it because you're like, something new's coming. Like it's this weird like. It's a reward system. It's like when you get the mail, and when you order something in Amazon, you get it in the mail, and you know what it is, but you want to open it up and you get it. It's the same thing with like booking these covers and getting art, or even when you do interiors and you get a new page and a page is coming up, or you see the layouts come in, and you're just like, dude, it's awesome. Like I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it is. It's like opening up a new present. Open up a new present.
Maybe I can maybe relate because I shoot a lot of emails out for interviews, and every once in a while you pull something out and you get somebody that you didn't think you were gonna get, and like, yeah, I'll come on your show, no worries. And it's very exciting to open up an email that's a yes.
Well, obviously that's how you reacted when you got my email back. You were like, oh my God. Thank you. No, no, but I mean, like I know exactly what you mean. Like it's the same thing with like I'll send out stuff to artists that I'm a huge fan of, or a writer, or whatever it is that I want to work with, and then you're like, they might not really work with us, or they might not care, they might not know who we are, and then you get back like, yeah, I love your stuff. Like I definitely want to do it. And you're like, oh, awesome. You're like, this is awesome. Like I want to, because you're doing it from a fan point of view, not just even just like from business. You're like, as a fan, I want to see what you do with this.
Yes. I agree, and I have very, very, very little experience with that, but I could imagine it's like opening up things.
No, but it's like you getting somebody you want to interview, somebody you really are a fan of, or somebody you really want to know the information about them. You want to know more about them, and like you get a direct link to it. You don't have to look it up. You don't have to do the work. The work is, I mean, you do the work, but you do the work is like you letting them getting the hard work was getting them on there and being prepared for it. The easy thing is just letting them like kind of come in and you get to be a fan. Like if you're getting your favorite musician or your favorite wrestler or your favorite like writer or athlete, like that's awesome. And there's so many questions you want to know. Like that's what I love about like when you do like behind the scenes stuff, or just random, like I'll get sucked into a YouTube hole of just watching people do interviews and things like that. And I'm like, what did I just do? Like, you're like, I love it. But like at the same time, you're like, I
a lot of catching up to do on my channel. I need the views. I desperately need the views. Um, there's some really trippy things on my whole channel. All I'm going to say is that there's only one interview everybody should watch, and that's my interview with Sasha Nakamoto. And your mind will be blown. Your mind will be blown, and you will say, "How? Just why and how? Just how does this exist?" It's a trippy interview.
All
And
right, I'll have to check it out. Who's Sasha Nakamoto?
she is a VR cam girl.
Okay.
So she is the first of her kind, and she runs on a video game Real Engine.
Okay.
With full motion capture with basically almost specced out devs. So the fiduciary on her hands, she has about $12,000 gloves to achieve it.
It's not like the Nintendo Power Glove.
No, this is nowhere near the Nintendo Power Glove, or it's nowhere near Knuckles shovel gloves either. I go back to Sonic Adventure 2. Me and my Chow Garden. Oh my gosh. That's an old game. But bring this back to publishing because this is where I want to end. Obviously the Kickstarter stuff, the card stuff, all the products that are developed, whether it's metal cards, metal prints, metal plates, obviously 11x17s, magnets, subscription boxes, covers, all that stuff obviously is part of publishing to some degree. It's not all publishing, but understanding that, hey, I understand with a metal book, it's a little bit different, but you don't want to put Gretel on a book that Gretel isn't a part of. And so to some degree.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why we like the Grimm universe. So like Grimm Fairy Tales encapsulates everything. So like it gives us a little bit more leeway.
Yeah, but if Gretel has Gretel issue 1, you're not going to put Belle on Gretel issue 1.
Try not to. you attempt not to. I mean, that's the thing too. A lot of times, like these secondary products, like they're not secondary, but they're secondary products from like the book exists. It's more like we want to make sure we're getting you something that is recent, current, and a little bit like, so we're not like reprinting the same book over and over again. We don't want to hit you with, oh, we're going to put everything on a Grimm #1. And it's like, well, then Grimm #1 doesn't mean anything anymore. Like if there's 8,000 covers on Grimm #1, then it's like, well, okay, like I have 7,000 of them. I don't need 8,000 of them. So like we try to make sure we spread it out a little bit, especially when it's like Metal Comics, because we actually have a new, I think we go through Ready Comics for Metal Comics now. We used to go through Fairy. I think we still do on some projects, but Ready, you can actually, you give them the file. What's that?
I like Fairy Metal.
Yeah, Fairy, Jacob and Julie. Yeah, they're awesome.
Great. He's great. I use them for my metal cards.
Yeah, because I know originally we started with them. I think we switched between projects. It's more just like, because sometimes we do too many. So it's like we can't overload one with the other. So we just kind of just send them to both. At least, I don't know. I haven't ordered. I used to order all our metal products years ago, but I haven't done it in a few years.
No, I really enjoy Fairy. I actually messed up my specs on my Kickstarter like a year and a half ago for this show, and they're like, "Yo, dude, you messed up your specs." I'm like, "Oh, thanks for the catch." And it was good. It was good. It was smart because again, if you've never done a metal card before, it's very important that somebody tells you the specs. And if you send a 4x5, somebody who knows it's your first project, they should fucking tell you.
And not just print it skewed or like or backwards.
He's like, "Hey, dude, these are the specs I need." I'm like, "Oh, thank you," like because I've never done one of those things before. I'm like, "That's awesome," and very good business. And I'm happy to whenever I do a project.
Yeah, they were always professional with us. Gave us templates. They nailed. I remember they used to nail. Like I would hit them with like, "Hey, I need all these in like a week and a half." They're like, "Just send them." They're like, "Send the books." Like I'm like, "All right, thank you." Like but it's probably been years. It's been probably a little bit before the pandemic. I was ordering that stuff. But like, yeah, it's
well, crazy. You got promoted.
I was still doing the publishing, like the editing stuff and all that stuff. And we're small. Like we're not too small, but we're small, and we all kind of contribute a little bit everywhere we can. Like I mean, like this March would be my 15th year there. 15 years, yeah.
I barely made it through a year at my job right now. Apparently, like
I mean, like, because it's not like, I mean, for me, it feels like one long year because it's just like, I love what I do. Like whether it's conventions, like just talking about comics, like making comics, writing comics, booking covers, working with artists, proofing books, proofing stuff, like all aspects of it is just, it's cool. Like, is it cool every second of every day? No, that's impossible. But overall, like it's just so rewarding. Like, I mean, that's the thing is, like, I can never not do this for a living because like it's just, it's too much. I've been spoiled with instant gratification of getting like books done or art in, or coming up with an idea and you send it to an artist and they give it to you in a week and you're like like how privileged we are to get to do that. Where some people had to do 3 failed Kickstarters that they can't pay for just to get the one piece of artwork they want. Like that, like that's like, you got to appreciate that. And like, I don't know, I love that. Like, I don't know, you can't take this stuff for granted. You got to do it like you love it, and you got to love it until you can't anymore.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that because a lot of season 5, obviously I have a sponsor, and my sponsor took care of a good chunk of the, I would say 66, maybe 70% of season 5.
Okay.
So I have a lot of freedom to do what I want, and it's my call, my choice. And I can find ways how to get the other $100 I need, give or take, or if I have to throw it in myself, that's absolutely fine. But it's my show
Yeah.
and it's my choice. And very few people, people could ask me to be on my show, but mostly I'm like, I don't know, that's your project, and I'm not interested. and then that's where I'm at. And it rubs people the wrong way. And I'm like, well, when it's Raven Gregory said it to me, he said, when you mortgage your house to do this, you get to call the shots.
Yeah.
And it's a very important quote he told me, and it changed my perspective, where I'm not going out to the bar on Friday so that I could do my show and economically afford it for years. So I'm sorry that I get to call the shots and that it upsets you that you don't get to come on my show. Or if I really don't want to have somebody on my show and they need an interview, I'm like $20. And people say, well, I don't want to pay for it. I'm like, well, because that's not industry standard. I say, well, I don't want to be industry standard, and that's that.
No, yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing too. We pay for it. Like, I mean, on my end, it's more lack of sleep. It's like, look, I'm going to spend the time to write this stuff and create it. Like, if I'm editing it, I want to make sure it hits what I'm trying to do. Like, and that's not just for me with the stuff I write. It's for anybody that we're commissioning to write stuff. We want to make sure that like we hit what we want to make sure they hit what we need, and also that when it's drawn and created, we want to make sure we're staying true to what was agreed upon on that. Like, it's the freedom. It's that's the thing you have with your show. You have your freedom to do what you want to a degree. Like, you're not going out and like purge day, like you're just like driving through a mall.
Yeah.
You know who I am, and you drive through the mall like Blues Brothers. Like, you just like, but like that's the thing is like you want. I mean, I feel like that's what we want as people is like, you want that freedom, but it's like you got to put that sacrifice and you got to put that energy into it to get that freedom. Otherwise, it's not gonna happen.
It takes a lot, and people don't understand that in a given year, I probably shoot out 900 to 1,000 emails to get 120, maybe 150 interviews. And it's a lot of rejection. And also what happens is that I will shoot out an email in 2017, and then I will circle back to that person 5 years later, and they say no in 2017. And so a lot of it is also circling back and circling back and circling back and circling back. And unless somebody explicitly says no and says, I'm never interested in coming on your show, then I'm going to keep asking you every 18 months until you say, I can't fucking take it. I'm going to come on your show, so you leave me the fuck alone. And then when you come on my show, I'm going to blow you away. I'm going to ask you legit questions, and we're going to actually have a good interview. And then I'll cut up that content, and then it'll do well on TikTok. So that's how that works. Unless somebody explicitly says, no, I am not interested. I don't really care. I don't care how big of a celebrity you are. I don't.
Oh, I mean, because people are people, man. like we were saying it before. It's like nobody's more important than another person. Like you might have values and you value things in your own life, but I mean, people are people. like yeah, it's not gonna be like, oh my god, you're like, unless they have like superpowers, then it's different. Then it's like, oh well, you can light things on fire with your hands. Like, all right, you can do whatever you want, I guess. Like you can make gold. Like, cool.
No, that's how I view it, and you'd be surprised who wants to speak to who. But I digress. I digress. We've been speaking for an hour and a half. Obviously, I love Zenescope. I'm super excited. I got my Greg Will Watson stuff coming. I am super excited for my Mike DeBaffo metal books. That Christmas metal book is going to be good. I spent a lot of money. I should not have spent that much money. In the last 3 months, I spent a lot of money with Zenescope. That's why I'm a gold member now.
I appreciate it, man. Like the thing is, like you supporting us lets me do my dream. So like I really appreciate that.
No, I enjoy it. I enjoy the covers, and I flip books too every once in a while, and I do all right. But it's tough. It's tough right now. It's the market is getting soft, and I'm not very happy about that. But it'll turn around eventually. But the card stuff is good. I make money in your cards. That's like the best product I could sell in my eBay.
Well, we got plenty coming.
I wish I could buy a case. Like I would love to buy a case.
Like a full box? Or you talking about like a case of like a run, like a full set, like how they would do
a case in Card World is 12 hobby boxes.
Oh, okay.
In a package that's sealed.
Yeah.
And so, but I don't have the economics to buy a case right now.
Yeah, I mean,
a case would be 2,400, give or take. Well, and it's a lot of money.
50% off coupon.
even still, maybe. No. I think it'd be too much merch, to be honest. I think honestly, if that product was on the website before the end of March when my 50% coupon expires, I will probably buy like 6 of them.
I'll write the salespeople to launch it April 1st. Just
fuck with me. Just fuck with me. See, I would find it funny.
Well, it's April Fool's joke. Plus, it's like, yeah, we got your money. No, I was kidding. No, I mean, I don't know, and I don't know enough when they put like I have ideas when we put things on the website. I have no idea. Like I think the Wonderland cards, the original launch, I mean, the original release date is supposed to be like May, but it'll be done before that. Like we just give ourselves a cushion room, just because we don't want to be like, yeah, we're gonna do it, and then all of a sudden you're like, where is this? And we're like, it's coming. Like, but like right now I think we're ahead of schedule. We had a meeting today about like a little bit of everything because we moved into a new office. So like we were just talking about like everything today, and we're way far ahead of schedule on that stuff.
Yeah, no, I just hope that the only thing is that backer kit, I just hope it gets charged after the 22nd of January, because if I get charged after the 22nd on backer kit, I'm clear on my charge card. But I don't think that's going to be a massive problem, because I don't think you guys are going to charge it until it's closer anyway.
I'm not sure. I'm not.
I mean, I can.
I don't know. I don't know when they're like what they're doing on any of that stuff. Like,
because backer kit is very different than Kickstarter, also. But that's a different position.
Yeah, it's like a store. Like it's almost like a storefront with like specific Kickstarter products. I've seen it. I just don't know enough about it. Like I wish I had the time and the brain power.
It's all good. But enough about this. Enough about that, because that's inside baseball. I do want to give you a chance to promote what's going on with Zenescope, everything going on. I did put the link to all the Bell stuff, all the comics, all the graphic novels. I think there's only 2 story graphic novels where I think it's Bell Oath and then Bell Thorn.
No, it's Bell Beast Hunter and Bell Over the Thorns. So those are the only 2 paperbacks we have of her, and everything else is one shots or annuals. I think there's a total of 40 or 41 Bell issues, like including like the 6 issues from the 2 miniseries each. So like she's getting close to 50. But yeah, no, I appreciate that.
A trifold out for 50.
If we get the 50, probably. Like, I love those things, and I love putting Igor to work and making him draw more and more characters each time.
I do. Do we get a mug too?
I don't know. I mean, that's not. I'm not in the mug sector.
I had a Van Helsing 50 mug, and then I was bringing it for my interview, and the handle just fell right off, and the thing just dropped, and I was so disappointed. I was so devastated. I was like in tears for like a week.
Sorry, man.
It was very upsetting. It was very upsetting. Like it wasn't even like the mug was like $10, but I'm like, this is such a cool mug. It was.
Hey, it's a badass covered. I love those trifolds. Trifolds are awesome. But
oh my god, the 5 gatefolds are sick too.
well, we have our largest connecting cover coming up. Cover set. Josh Burns is actually doing it, and it's for the diamond bronze covers, like January through December. It's gonna be. You're not gonna notice it yet at first, but like all the character, it's gonna be a 12-piece connecting set.
Sick. That's sick.
It'll be crazy. Yeah, it's gonna be the biggest one we've ever done. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like stuff coming up. I mean, we've Grim Fairy Tales it keeps coming out monthly. We're gonna do two bigger series like horror and fantasy illustrated, which is basically kind of they're gonna be 48-page sci-fi and horror stories. So like standalone, like almost like in the vein of Tales of Terror, but not Tales of Terror, because these ones are going to go from sci-fi, space, time for everything. And then we also have a new series we're launching. It's going to be true horror mysteries, which is actually there. It's a nonfiction book, so it's actually going to cover actual unsolved murders and mysteries and things like that that's happened through time. So we have the first issue. It's getting drawn right now. First issue came out really cool. It was something we were experimenting with, trying to check it out. But then we also have trying to think if it was released yet. No, the one book wasn't released yet, like through Diamond yet. But I'll just say it anyway. It's we have Pooh versus Bambi. So it's gonna be it's gonna be in the world of Man, Goat, and Bunny Man. So it's gonna be like kind of growing in that universe a little bit. We have that coming up. We'll have the Van Helsing Vampire Hunter, which was just kickstarted. That'll be a 3-issue series. And then you'll see in the next 2 months through Diamond, you'll see the Oz series coming up. That'll be the next Kickstarter coming up for single issues. Oz Fall of the Emerald City. Booking the covers now. Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of stuff coming up. We got a lot of things coming up. We want to keep you guys guessing a little bit of what is actually going to happen in them. And then, I mean, we have the Fairy Tale Team Up book, which is going to be a Robin Hood centric book, where she's kind of teaming up with different characters, but there's going to be an overlying story to it. But it's like this way we can kind of dip Robin and spread her around with different characters and give her different settings and kind of build up there, because people love Robin Hood as we do. But yeah, I mean, it's keep looking, keep reading, keep checking out all the new stuff coming up, and thank you.
Yeah, and then just quick about me that I got everything going on. Obviously, I am back for season 5. I'm gonna have a lot of fun this season. I got a bunch of surprises. I don't think people are necessarily ready for some of these surprises, and that's all right. I got a lot of friends and a lot of interesting places right now, and as I stated, I am going to be getting very scandalous this season. So I'm super excited, but obviously social media, I am Pop Anime Comics on Twitter /X. I'm Pop Anime Comics on Instagram. I'm Pop Anime Comics on Facebook. I run an eBay store called Pop Anime Comics Collectibles, and I deal with comics, cards, Pop Funkos, other weird collectibles, all sorts of fun stuff in that regard. I just brought in some really cool WWE cards that may or may not be up on my eBay store in the next few weeks. I also have some cool Greg Watson stuff coming up, probably in my eBay store. And you never know what's going to come out. And I may be doing a comic variant for my eBay store this year. So nice. It's very, very exciting what's coming down the pike for me. Or I might not do it. I haven't decided yet. Yeah. You never know what's going to come down, but also you never know what's going to come into my eBay shop. So, and I actually do have something that I'm waiting on that I can show. I have this in hollow foil, all 50 of them into my eBay store. So we're getting very Burissa guys. So I'm asking like 90 for that in my eBay store, and in holofoil, and you can't find that, guys, because I bought the whole print run.
Who was the artist?
Oh, I have no idea who the artist is.
Oh, okay.
I bought a whole print run out of a holofoil.
Wow, man.
It wasn't even that expensive. Wasn't even that expensive for 15 of them. Wasn't that expensive. But I'm not going to tell you how much it was because I don't want to
you gotta sell it.
And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it, and I probably will do it again, just so everybody's well aware that this is not a one-off. So if you're looking for that book in holofoil and you gotta have it, I got you. And I can get you any number you want because nobody's bought them yet. So I got you. Any number you want, guys, I got you. But that's everything that I got. And on that note, I'm going to give you the final word.
No, well, I mean, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm glad I got to come on here. I love talking with you, man. I'll talk comics all day. As you can see, we're an hour and 40 in. And for Zenescope, I mean, you can basically just find us, just type in Zenescope, ZENESCOPE, and then entertainment. It's pretty much everything. That's our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, website. You can't miss us. There's not many companies that are called Zenescope, so you're good. Cool.
Well, I think that's a wrap, everybody.